welcome to your F1 Live post-race show after the quite incredible Sao Paulo Grand Prix. We are live in the paddock, and I'm joined by Haas reserve and test driver Pietro Fittipaldi. Bom dia, what an incredible race we've just seen. Your first impressions, Pietro?
I think it was an incredible race, very exciting. I think this could be title deciding, and very happy to be in Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible party atmosphere here. We've just seen the podium, the Brazilian flag draped around Lewis Hamilton's shoulders. Of course, he took the win today. An incredible weekend. If you've lived it with us on F1 TV, I hope you've enjoyed every second. But now let's focus our attention to Charles Leclerc, Ferrari driver. Charles, you said last night there was a lot of work to do overnight. It seems you've done the right kind of work because you've finished ahead of both McLarens and Pierre. How satisfied are you right now?
I'm very happy. I mean, whenever you have a hard day in the car, to prove yourself that with work you can manage to come back the day after, it feels very, very good. So today I've done a great job in the car, which I didn't do yesterday, and I felt frustrated for that. But today was a good day for me. It was, after the good start, it was all about managing those tires to go to the end, which I did, and everything felt good. We are also extending to our main competitors, which are McLaren, so it's a good day for the team.
And as we head straight to Qatar in 7 days' time, what are your thoughts about that track, new challenges, and then for the rest of the season? We're getting so close to the end now.
I don't know whether the first corner is turning left or right in Qatar, to be honest.
You need to have a little look at the map on the way there.
Exactly, but I still have time. I've got 3-4 days to prepare Qatar the way it is, but I just wanted to focus on Mexico and Brazil, which are two tracks that I normally struggle with my driving, but at the end I managed to extract the maximum on the Sundays, so happy with these two, and now I'll try and push on for Qatar.
Well, congratulations, great weekend.
Thank you.
Safe trip onwards to Qatar.
Thank you very much.
Well, there we go, Charles Leclerc, great weekend for him. Now, they're coming thick and fast. I absolutely love this. Yuki Tsunoda, a little bit of action out there for you and Lance Stroll. How did it look from your point of view in the cockpit, Yuki?
Clearly, he was not looking at all. I was inside completely, and had a little bit lock-up moment, really the end of the braking, but because I realized that he was not looking at all, and he just drove normal line. So it's really a shame, and for me, it's just, I cannot understand that I got 10-second penalty for that. I mean, 5 seconds for me is harsh, but yeah, it is what it is, and I have to, improve next time.
How have you found your entire weekend? Because it's so tough when you don't know a track with an hour's practice on a Friday to then jump straight into quali, sprint race, and a Grand Prix. Just your sort of overall reflection on the weekend here.
I think was good. I think qualifying, I dropped in Q2, but I think the pace was not too bad, especially the first time in Brazil, and only one free practice straight in qualifying. So yeah, I'm quite happy what I did, my performance in terms of performance, but I couldn't put it all together in this race week, but I learned a lot of things, so just take it positive, and we'll be back in strong in the next Qatar.
Fantastic. Well done. I couldn't do it. You did brilliantly. Thank you so much, Yuki Tsunoda. I think we've got them queuing up. I think we've got Esteban Ocon. I mean, honestly, it's like buses. They all come along at once. Esteban, double points finish. Double points finish for you guys. Yeah, I know, sorry. We normally lower it a little bit for Yuki, but I'm so sorry. We haven't managed to raise it up. There we go.
It's heavy, like this.
Karaoke, what's your song?
I'm not sure. Give me a song, I don't know, I try.
Well, maybe we win again, because that was a great...
I don't know that song, but...
I've made it up. It may not even be a song. That is the new one. That can be your single. Nice little battle there with Pierre Gasly. You guys at least finishing in the top 10, both of you, today.
Yeah, it's been a very strong team effort, I think, today. What we did with Fernando is pushing the boundaries of tactics, as much as we could. We swapped position early on to try and protect from Gasly. He was trying to tow me all the way, through the straight. That worked for 4 laps, and he had fresher tires. But it was not enough, unfortunately, until the end. So we swapped back the position, towards the end of the race. But we are still tight in the championship with our efforts. But we need definitely a bit more, pace to be able to keep those guys behind.
Absolutely. And then just your thoughts looking ahead. Of course, we now move to Qatar. I can't really believe that we're all going to pick up and meet again in the desert in a few days' time. How do you guys think you'll go compared to AlphaTauri next weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be a good surprise. Obviously, nobody knows the track. I'm going to be learning the track in the next couple of days, in the simulator. So that's going to be fun because I have no idea if the first corner is left or right yet.
I know, that's what you guys are saying. Charles said the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm worried.
Exactly. No, it should be fine. We have everything in place, to learn it as much as we can. But it will be a bit of an unknown until we do some practice.
Well, good luck. Have a few days off, a little bit of a rest, bit of simulator work, and we'll meet again in Qatar.
Thank you very much. See you,
Merci. Well, now I'm going to bring in Pierre Gasly. I'm just beckoning them in. Pietro, we will have a big chat shortly. Pierre, just spoken to Esteban. You put up a big fight with those Alpine guys. What a day for you. What a weekend.
Yeah, it's been an amazing weekend. I mean, 5th in quali and 7th in the race behind the 3 top teams. And they gave me a lot of hard work, especially these 2 guys at the end, Esteban and Fernando. It was such an intense battle, but the whole race I had a nice battle with Seb at the start, nice overtake with Daniel when he came out from the pits, and Lando, and I mean especially Fernando. It's not every race you get to fight like that with the double world champion, so I really enjoyed that and really happy I came out on top. Yeah.
A little boyhood dream there, I guess. How satisfying and how comforting is it to know that your car out of the box is pretty strong when we're coming up to some tracks that you don't know?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's going to be a challenge for everyone, but we've shown some really good pace in Mexico. We've shown some really good pace again this weekend. Qatar and Saudi is going to be new to everybody. Yeah. And it's a challenge for the team and also for us. So yeah, we'll prepare the best way we can. We're again tight on point. Unfortunately, we didn't recover any points on Alpine, but it's going to be a good battle till Abu Dhabi.
Such a great battle to watch unfold. Well done today.
You.
Well done for the weekend. See you in Qatar. Well, here we go, Pietro. Welcome back to the show.
We rounded up all the drivers. I think that was great. One after another, we got a good overview of the race.
I'm like little Bo Peep, just wrangling them all. Well, let's talk about the win that we have seen today. Lewis Hamilton. I have to say, on the way here in the car, when we were commuting into the track, I said, I think Lewis could do it today. I mean, as a driver, how realistic was that sort of bet and thought process?
No, because I always thought Interlagos was like a Red Bull track. I think Verstappen won here the last time out. He was, very close to winning from what I remember. And I thought that it was going to be Red Bull's day because Hamilton, although he made up all the positions, he was still starting 10th today. And with Perez there as well to kind of help, Verstappen gain that lead. It's crazy that he was able to do it. And for me, it's title deciding. I mean, it keeps the title all the way down to the wire, and if Hamilton ends up winning the championship, this race is going to be historic.
Well, absolutely. I think it'll be the best championship he's ever won if he does indeed go on to win it, and we are then in for some serious racing if that's going to happen in the next few. Well, let's take a look at how it all unfolded then and see where everybody ended up. We've spoken to quite a few of the drivers already, but this is your session result. Lewis Hamilton coming home first, taking the checkered flag, of course starting from P10, making his way through the field to take the win here in Brazil for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, ahead of Max Verstappen, his biggest title rival, and then Valtteri Bottas, wingman extraordinaire, P3 for the Finnish driver, taking the 3rd place on the podium. P4 for Sergio Perez, then the 2 Ferraris headed by Charles Leclerc, so pleased with his performance today. P7 for Pierre Gasly, who we've just heard from, another great weekend for him in the AlphaTauri. Then the 2 Alpines, a double points finish for them. Very good news for them, having had a couple of difficult weekends. Then Lando Norris rounding out the top 10, of course squeezed at the start with Carlos Sainz. Sebastian Vettel P11 ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. George Russell up in P13, not bad considering they thought the Williams wouldn't go well here. Then Antonio Giovinazzi, Yuki Tsunoda with that moment with Lance Stroll, P15 for him, Stroll retiring. Then Nicholas Latifi ahead of the 2 Haas drivers. And it was Daniel Ricciardo who DNF'd with a power loss. And then, of course, Lance Stroll, who I just mentioned, also unable to finish today's Grand Prix. So there you go. That's your session result. Now, let's rewind to the start of the race. It was obviously a fairly tight battle up at the front, but also just slightly behind. We had Carlos Sainz and we had Lando Norris. A little bit of Lando action going on. Carlos didn't really have anywhere to go, did he? And Lando was being pretty bullish going for the outside there. Yeah,
it's really tight over there. And then I guess, Carlos didn't have room to go. He had cars on the inside, ended up touching Lando. Lando got a flat tire, as we can see over here, just on the outside, skimming the outside wall basically, and then ended up getting a puncture. It was a risky move. If it would have worked, it would have been great, but it didn't that time. And we can see, from the onboard of Sainz, he kept a straight line off the start. He moved a little bit to the right. I think you saw him in the mirror, but then he kept his line and kind of Lando came in with the wall, and ended up making contact.
Yeah, another great moment of the start to keep your eye out. You have to keep your eye out all over the grid, especially when you've got someone like Lewis Hamilton starting out of position. He also made great progress, but right up at the front, Max Verstappen versus Valtteri Bottas. Yesterday, Valtteri made a blistering start from P2, and then Max Verstappen had the upper hand today, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think he kind of learned a little bit from yesterday, had a good start, and was able to take the lead already from the first lap.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch. We didn't really know how it was going to play out after yesterday. Valtteri on form yesterday, sort of thought he may do it again today, but it was not to be for him this afternoon. Interesting calls from him as well to the team, thinking they threw away a 1-2. Of course, it was a 1-3 in the end. What were your thoughts when all those strategies started to play out?
I thought the strategy, honestly, I think it was a good strategy. It ended up working for Hamilton,
Yeah.
which is the most important right now. I mean, he's fighting the championship. Valtteri let him go by at some point in the race, but I thought it was a good strategy. You know, they pitted Hamilton a little bit after Verstappen. His tires are a bit newer. He was able to attack, make the move. It took a bit longer than I was expecting, and that move with Verstappen, when Verstappen kind of pushed him out wide on the outside, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, what did you make of that move? Were you...
It's racing. I mean, like, I know what Verstappen was thinking. You push the guy out wide there, it's bumpy, and for sure he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And, you know, pushing him wide, he was going to lose traction there on the outside. But at the end, it's racing. We all want to see that. You know, I think the FIA made the right call. Racing incident, they said basically they weren't going to do anything about it, no penalties. And that's, for me, that's how it has to be.
Just recreate your own racetrack, off track. Why not?
Hey,
It's
why
like
not? You guys are
lacrosse. If you
side
play
by
lacrosse,
side,
you can just
title
keep
on the
going.
line. Absolutely.
Oh, well, let's head back to F1's Tech HQ now and join racing driver Alex Brundle, who's been looking at all the battles between Red Bull and Mercedes this afternoon.
Well, bad news for me, I can't hear and see the cars. Good news for me, I've got way more screens and I've been checking out absolutely everything. I've been really reliving that battle between Red Bull and Mercedes that raged for the whole race distance. After the original start of the race, of course, they swapped the two Mercedes around and they'd really set their stall out at that point for what was going to be a tactical race with full wingman action going on. Then we saw this and lovely little bit of gamesmanship. Sergio Perez in the virtual safety car to pick up Yuki Tsunoda's broken front wing, just driving a little bit behind the virtual safety car earliest arrival time to give Max Verstappen that gap at the front of the field. As we move then on into the race, Perez put up this great big defence on Lewis Hamilton. I thought he did a brilliant job, actually, of holding off a very hard-charging Lewis Hamilton. Regens a little bit of energy and then uses it all back up with the DRS. Remember, that DRS activation point is just before the first corner, so Perez was able to take the DRS down to turn 4. And wow, we saw this move a couple of times, didn't we? But very, very stout defensive work on Lewis Hamilton. In eventual terms, though, he was not able to hold the Englishman back, but really did damage Lewis's tyres early on in that stint. We could see that play out in the lap times. When the eventual move was made, Lewis just got so much of an overspeed, he was able to make the move. He wasn't able quite to close in the way he might have liked. The battle then raged into the pit stops. Max Verstappen pitted what was a little bit late on the medium tyre, and everybody ran that medium tyre a bit further into the race than we were expecting. But what some might not have seen was that the undercut was quite powerful for Lewis Hamilton. He took around 2 seconds out of Verstappen at the front of the field, but he got this little bit of traffic from Ricciardo coming through the first corner, which really cost him that track position and meant that he couldn't undercut. Max, of course, then over the radio, don't let me get into that kind of danger, that kind of peril again. Pitted very, very early. Hamilton then has the tyres to go and fight. And this situation, I completely agree with you, Pietro. Let the boys race. Max knows exactly what he's doing here. He can make the corner. He's made the apex and then just chooses to drive Lewis Hamilton out to the white line and beyond. You're not going to go past me just like that, son. Eventually, Lewis, of course, would get the move done, but a totally thrilling race between two teams out there on the racetrack today.
Couldn't agree more, Alex. Thanks so much for that deep dive and all the battles that we saw unfold between Mercedes and Red Bull this afternoon. And what a weekend for both teams. Summoned to the stewards, we had Lewis disqualified, we had fines being handed out to Max Verstappen, 5-place grid penalty, as Lewis said. Actually, it's been a 25 grid place penalty he's had to endure this weekend. If you think about it, going back to the back of the grid yesterday and then 5-place today. Toto Wolff thought it was a joke that he'd been disqualified. What was your take on the penalty situation this weekend?
And it was so many things happening. You had Verstappen touching his car after the race, and then people weren't sure if he was going to get penalized. Then obviously the issue that they had with Hamilton's rear wing, he got penalized. I mean, the rule is the rule with the FIA. When there's a regulation in there and it has to do with the car, if it exceeds the regulation, I mean, it's a penalty. It's the way it is. Obviously, racing's a bit different because you have different stewards. They can interpret it differently. But when it's set in stone, it's a rule and it's written on paper, with the car, then it's a penalty. But I think that kind of fueled Hamilton to be able to come from the back. He was like, listen, I'm going to go from the sprint race up to P5, then started P10, and then ended up winning the race. I thought that was amazing.
Driving possessed, man on a
Field
mission.
of fire.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Busy weekend for Lewis Hamilton, also busy weekend for his team. Of course, Ron Meadows, sporting director at Mercedes, and Jonathan Wheatley, sporting director at Red Bull. Of course, they've been in to see the stewards a fair bit. They've also been on the phone, but Toto Wolff obviously presiding over Ron Meadows at Mercedes. Let's hear from Toto Wolff now, talking to Sam Collins.
Toto, congratulations on what was quite an exciting Grand Prix, it's fair to say. And the first one I want to ask you, there was a huge emotion from you that we saw in the garage, and I've seen the team members coming out of the back of the garage. This win means a huge amount. Why is that?
Because everything went against us. We started on the back foot with our own inflicted 5 grid place penalty, and everything else that was thrown on us afterwards with a disqualification from the quali race. And then some of the decisions that were taken today in the race, and it just feels so much sweeter when you can prove that you can still rise.
Now, you mentioned the decisions taken in the race. We saw a black and white flag for weaving for Max, and then we saw that moment where the two cars went off the road. You've raced yourself extensively, and we got the race director's notes from Mexico saying you couldn't crowd another car off the track. What's your take on that incident?
First of all, it's hard racing, and that's what we love, and Max is really good with his racecraft and the positioning, and he knew that was probably the end, and that's why he drove him off the track. But Lewis was brilliant because he avoided any contact, and that was, I would say, the key to unlocking the race win. But that's just not on, and then not investigating any further. Honestly, it's embarrassing, but not for us. It's just embarrassing.
Okay, Toto, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Well, Toto Wolff with a lot on his plate this weekend, but it came good eventually. And you might be able to see over my shoulder Lewis Hamilton being interviewed by the Brazilian media. Pietro, to drape yourself in the Brazilian flag, the crowd was just erupting for Lewis today. Every overtake yesterday as well. They were so behind him. What is it? Why do they dial themselves in to support Lewis Hamilton?
I think because Lewis is, he's very open about how he loves, the passion of the Brazilians with racing. He's for sure a big fan of Ayrton Senna. I saw on social media,
See, that's how you say it.
Yeah.
That is how you say it.
Yeah. So I think the people understand that. And honestly, I think it was a mix in the crowd. There was a lot of, every time Hamilton would get past Verstappen, it was like everybody screaming. The same when Verstappen, look at that, the fans. When Verstappen overtook Hamilton, it was the same thing. The crowd were just cheering. So I think they were just so excited about Formula One being back in Brazil. It had been 2 years. Yeah. The grandstands were packed, and it was just all this adrenaline with everybody, title on the line. I think everybody's just loving it.
It is absolutely fabulous, and so much attention here. You can't see, unfortunately, we're on fixed cameras, but everybody crowding around from Paddock Club, the special area above the pit building where people have been watching from, everyone trying to get a glimpse of you, of Lewis Hamilton, always trying to see everybody. Well, let's have another look then at how things ended up. Now let's focus on Sergio Perez, the second Red Bull car to cross the finish line this afternoon, finishing P4, but a good battle with Lewis Hamilton. He didn't let him go that easily. Let's hear from Sergio.
Hey, Checo, that was a really strong battle with Lewis in the early stages. Talk me through it.
Yeah, it was pretty important, to try to keep him there. As he was going to put the pressure into Max straight away. It was impressive, the Australian speed that they have, most of the times I looked at my mirrors and he was so far away, but then I look at the end of the straight and he was right next to me. So it was a bit crazy, but yeah, he was just on another planet today.
Frustrated not to get a podium, the VSC didn't quite work out for you.
We were extremely unlucky. There was nothing we could have done differently. With the virtual safety car there, we just got very unlucky, and unfortunately that hurt and helped Mercedes to do the undercut with Bottas on us.
But pleased to get the fastest lap to at least contribute that at the end.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we did the best we possibly could today. Yeah, a bit of a shame that really we should have finished ahead of Bottas.
Well, an important job, Sergio Perez there, taking fastest lap as well. It's these sort of, the henchmen, the number 2 drivers are so important when it comes to these fastest laps, stealing points, like making sure the other team doesn't get them. Sergio Perez seeming a little dejected there, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he was so close to, you know, finishing on the podium. And but these points at the end of the day matter. These points, when it comes down to like the title at the last race, Abu Dhabi, these little points that people see, oh, it's only 1 point for fastest lap. It makes a difference at the end of the day. And then I think Checo knows his job for now. I think he's done a great job being able to be there as, you know, second driver for Verstappen. Next year, you know, I'm sure he's going to make another step, but he's been great defending Hamilton today. Hamilton overtook him. He overtook Hamilton back. Then Hamilton passed him again. So I think he's doing an amazing job.
He certainly is. Not to be for him today, though, the podium. And Christian Horner on the radio to Max Verstappen saying damage limitation. Perhaps that's why Max Verstappen didn't challenge all the way to the end. The pace did drop off, wasn't able to get on terms with Lewis today. But let's hear from Christian Horner now, talking to Sam Collins.
Congratulations on a result that was still pretty solid, but perhaps not the result you wanted. But after our conversation we had yesterday, perhaps not the most unexpected result for you.
Look, I don't think it was unexpected. We saw from Friday the pace and performance of the Mercedes car here. So, you know, they did a great job. Lewis drove a great race today, or this weekend. So, you know, we have to take our hat off to that. And, you know, we've got to focus hard on our own performance to try and make sure we're in a better position in the next couple of races.
Now, obviously, there's a huge focus on some of the moves and overtaking manoeuvres in the race, and we heard the team radio messages during the Grand Prix. What's your take on Max's weaving, but also that move where Lewis and Max both ended up on the outside of the track, as a former single-seater driver yourself?
As two guys racing hard, and there was no contact. They both ran wide. You know, I thought the stewards made the right decision with that. It would have been hard to penalise either of them. It's, you know, two drivers fighting for a world championship. And it was firm but fair racing. They both ran deep. You know, it was one of those things.
Do you think we're going to see a lot more of that this season?
I think there's a bit of racing still to go.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Christian.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm excited. More racing to come, more coming our way. I cannot wait. Well, your thoughts on Christian Horner's way of managing it, the way of dealing with it, his opinion on what we saw today?
No, I think, you know, like he said, he would have been surprised if they would have penalized Verstappen for that incident that we spoke about. You know, I completely agree as well. It was racing. That's how it has to be. It has to be hard racing. Two drivers fighting for the title. And now the race is to come. You're going to Qatar next, which is a race I don't think Formula One's ever been there.
Nope, never.
It's a MotoGP track, very different lines. Usually the MotoGP tracks like Mugello, for example, they're very long corners, sweeping corners. So it's going to be very different style. You know, some corners in Brazil here are similar, but it's a very different rhythm to the track compared to the other Formula races we've been to recently.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how both those teams approach it. Well, because Alex Brundle is paid per data point analysed, we need to go back to him in F1's Tech HQ and check in on the Valtteri Alpine battle. Alex, what have you seen between those two? Not forgetting, of course, that Pierre Gasly finished ahead of both Alpines this afternoon.
Yeah, well, a very, very mixed battle, firstly, between AlphaTauri and Alpine. A very mixed-up day for AlphaTauri with the incident for Yuki Tsunoda, which caused pretty much both safety cars, actually, firstly for the initial impact, and then secondly for the bit which shed from the left-hand side barge board of Lance Stroll, eventually causing him to retire. This is how it looked from Yuki Tsunoda's standpoint, he was the only car that started on the soft compound tyre. And I think he was going here for something a little bit like what Lando Norris was aiming at, or what happened to Lando Norris at the hands of Lewis Hamilton in the sprint race. I think really the difference as we start it is one of sort of circumstance. Firstly, Lando yesterday knew that Lewis had that penalty and kind of opened the door for him. Stroll, in this instance, very much doesn't. Now, you know, reminiscent of your track runs, Rosanna, that this area of the circuit slopes down very, very aggressively as you go towards the apex. You really lose deceleration. And although he looks like he might be able to get this under control, at this point, he's absolutely committed. He's committed too late. Basically, that contact happens way later in the corner. He can't get out of it, though, because he's right on the limit of braking. And when you look at it from this angle, it looks like he's just gone in too late, exactly as he has. Both drivers need the apex if they're going to get the exit and not going to be under pressure later on through the Curva du Sol and out onto the straight towards turn 4. Pierre Gasly, on the other hand, drove a beautiful race up into the top 10, culminating in this nice little battle with Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. They really went wheel to wheel, not only in the championship, but also out on the racetrack today, and battles all the way down the field. Gasly would be able to pass both Alpines and make his way through into the top 10 and take some great points away to capitalise on good pace all the way through the weekend, Rosanna.
Thanks, Alex. Yes, lots of battles to enjoy this afternoon. Unfortunately for Lance Stroll, the battle with Yuki Tsunoda, meaning that he ended up DNFing. So Lance Stroll out. And also Daniel Ricciardo, disappointing for him in terms of the battle between McLaren and Ferrari today.
Yeah, because it's very tight. It's similar to, obviously, Mercedes and Red Bull for the constructors. McLaren and Ferrari are right there to finish ahead of each other in the Constructors Championship, so every point counts. And looking at Yuki's incident there, turn 1 in Interlagos is always like this, because you're always on the limit of braking, as Alex said, and it's always with front locking there. So if you end up passing a guy too late, you're late on the brakes, you overshoot the braking, you end up just locking the tire or slow locking, and you just understeer onto the other car. Then there's nothing you can do because it's downhill, so you end up losing front grip.
It really is. On the opening shots of the Grand Prix, you don't really see how much it falls away the circuit. It sort of almost looks flatline, but it is such a drop.
Yeah, you go uphill into the braking, but as you get into the corner, it's very downhill and it's pretty steep, you know? I mean, if you skateboard down it, you're going to get some miles per hour there.
I thought I was going to fall down it last night. It is so sheer.
Yeah, so you end up losing front grip, and then you just, that's what happened. You kind of slow lock. There wasn't smoke, so it wasn't a hard lock. It was a slow lock, and then you just touched it and lost his front wing.
Well, we mentioned Daniel Ricciardo was one of the drivers unable to take the checkered flag this afternoon. Loss of power causing his DNF. Let's hear it from Danny now.
Hey Daniel, you're having such a great race up until that power issue. Talk me through it.
It was definitely better than yesterday. So I say better than yesterday, but I think it was actually going well. We were in the fight, like at least hanging on to, you know, Ferraris. We knew had to two-stop because they went medium. So, you know, we were potentially going to try and do a 1, or we had the ability to, being on the hard. And Gasly was there in our window as well, so I think, yeah, could have got interesting, but anyway, we were doing what we could, and yeah, we just had a loss of power at the end, so we had to retire the car, but had some battles. I think it was a much more interesting race than yesterday, and we were at least in the mix in the fight, so I think we still lacked maybe a couple tenths, but I think we were there, so come back in Qatar, and I heard it's my first retirement all season, so these things happen.
Right, thank you, Daniel. Thanks.
Disappointing for Daniel, and actually Ferrari really had the upper hand this weekend. So really, with work to do, the McLaren lot for the coming few races that are remaining.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Ferrari were on it this weekend. Like I said, Qatar is going to be a completely different track for, you know, a lot of the teams. No one's really ever been there unless you've worked with MotoGP, and I think that might shake things up. After there, we then go to another new track, which is Saudi, kind of like a street course. I downloaded it on the simulator with my brother because he's racing F2 there.
I've been on it. I've walked on it.
Oh, really?
I've actually walked on it.
Is it kind of like a street circuit, or?
It's very fast and flowing. It's tricky to almost see where the corners are.
Is it narrow?
Sort of quite narrow, yes.
It looked kind of narrow, a lot of like sweeping long, fast corners. So 2 racetracks that we've never been, and that's going to shake a lot of the things up, you know?
Yeah, a bit of banking as well. You'd like that.
For sure, oval racing.
Exactly. Oh, well, that hybrid system as well for the Ferraris really seems to be coming into its own as well for their package.
Yeah, for sure. I think they definitely took a step towards the end of the year now. Obviously, McLaren winning that race in Monza and doing so well with Lando almost winning in Russia. McLaren kind of really bounced back hard.
Absolutely. Well, let's revisit our top 3 then this afternoon. Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Let's hear from them now.
Hey Valtteri, considering where you were on lap 1, are you quite pleased to have got on the podium?
Yeah, lap 1 was quite disappointing. Had a very average start. Max had a good one, and then I tried to defend Checo and went wide, but I tried. I mean, yeah, we'll have a look what happened. And yeah, after that I obviously kept pushing, and we took the opportunity with a virtual safety car, and that was good. So I think the pace was actually okay today, so it was good to be there till the end, very close, and was actually pretty close to Max.
I thought the phases in that race you were super quick. Did you think at any point you could have caught Max?
Yeah, I mean, I knew there could be an opportunity, and he really started to drop at the end. It was, I honestly think only a couple more laps should have been enough, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just also really happy for Lewis. You know, he had, for me, that's like the champion's drive. He had an amazing day today, and I think he was on a different league today to anyone else.
And hugely important points for the team as well in the Constructors Championship for both of you.
Yeah, really good points, obviously, and you know, that's something to be happy about.
Hey Max, great opening phase to the race, and then just didn't quite have the car told off. Lewis, frustrated or happy with good point?
No, I mean, I knew it was going to be difficult, but I tried everything I could, and I think we had some good battles. But yeah, clearly we were just lacking a bit today. Also, just top speed wise was really tough to defend. Yeah, you could clearly see when they take a fresh engine, you know, it gives them a bit more power. So hopefully now in the coming races that will die down slowly. But at least it was fun, you know. Of course, I would have liked to win, but realistically, I think this was a good result.
Multiple close moments in that race. No contact, though. You must be pleased with how this championship's kind of evolving in that kind of fight.
Yeah, I think it was good. Hard racing, but good racing, and that's how it should be.
Great stuff. Thank you, Max. Lewis, congratulations. What a race. Valtteri called it a champion's drive. Tell me, what did it feel like for you?
Thank you. It was one of the most fun races I've had in a long time. Just a great start and just really balanced throughout. I definitely didn't know whether or not that I would be able to overtake, and obviously I had 2 Red Bulls to get past, right? So they were working as well as a team. But it was just kind of crazy to think that where we started yesterday, last, and then I got up to 5th yesterday, and then I realized I got to go back another 5 places. And then thinking, Jesus, by the time I even get there, Max would be gone. But he wasn't that far ahead when I finally got there. And I just keep thinking just what a great team I have behind me who continue to push, continue to raise the bar and not say no to any answers, really. And this weekend we've been thrown a lot at us, and it was easy for us to get our head down or get down and not be positive and not do our job well, but they did a remarkable job this weekend.
Does it mean so much more given all of the times you got pushed back effectively this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. Success always feels sweeter when you face adversity, and yes, when you start first and have success, there's a journey to get there, of course, but it's far greater. This is one of the most beautiful feelings that I've had in a win, knowing that I've had all those pushbacks, right, setbacks, but we never let it stand in our way.
And that fight with Max, I mean, he pushed you wide at turn 4, he was weaving down the straight. I mean, what was going through your mind?
I was pretty chill. I was generally pretty chill. There was no not getting him. I was going to get him at some stage. So that was how my mindset was. I'm coming for you, and you know, and that's kind of where I did it.
And you did it. Congratulations, thank you.
Well, the most fun Lewis has had for a while after what can only be described as a bit of a roller coaster weekend for a driver. So difficult when you're pushed back constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're there, you have the pace, you get penalized after qualifying, then you have the sprint race at least to make it up. Finish 5th, then you get pushed back to 10th again. But I think he's the man to do it. He's a 7-time champion.
Yeah. Is there an 8th coming? Pending, buffering, who knows? Well, let's take a look then at the driver's standings after the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton getting a little closer to Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen still with the lead of the championship. So this is how it looks. I'll talk you through it, why not? Max Verstappen with 332.5 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That's a 14-point gap. Then in P3, it's Valtteri Bottas with 203 points, managing to hold Sergio Perez at bay. He's in P4. Then it's Lando Norris, P5, slipping down the order slightly, isn't he, Lando Norris? Then it's Charles Leclerc, the first of the Ferraris, in P6, ahead of Carlos Sainz. Daniel Ricciardo with 105 points, P8. Then Pierre Gasly, P9, and Fernando Alonso, 30 points separating those two. Esteban Ocon on 58 points ahead of Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin, who's ahead of his teammate, who's on 26, Lance Stroll. Then Yuki Tsunoda, who we're now hearing has 2 penalty points added to his total, 26 points ahead, behind, 6 points behind Lance Stroll. George Russell, 16 points ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Then Nicholas Latifi, Antonio Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher, Robert Kubica, and then Nikita Mazepin. The last 3 all on 0 points. Let's switch now to the Constructors Championship, and it's Mercedes leading the championship ahead of Red Bull. 521.5 points ahead of Red Bull, with 11 points difference there between the two. Ferrari in P3 managing to hold off McLaren in P4. Then it's Alpine and AlphaTauri, still level pegging. Can you believe it? We came into the weekend, they were both on 106. Now they're both on 112. Of course, Alpine with the win in Hungary, meaning they take P5. Aston Martin P7 ahead of Williams, still with 23 points. Then it's Alfa Romeo with 11 ahead of Haas, who are still yet to score a point. So there you go. That's your drivers and constructors standings as we leave Sao Paulo and head straight to Qatar. Will you be in Qatar, Pietro?
I will. I think most of the team is leaving today, already tonight, 14-hour flight. I'll be leaving on Wednesday.
Crazy. Already pack up well underway here. Mercedes with a glass of champagne in one hand, a pallet and bits of kit in the other, celebrating this afternoon after Lewis Hamilton's incredible fight back through the field to take the win in front of the amazing Brazilian fans here this afternoon. Pietro, thank you so much for your time on the show. My thanks to Alex Brundle and Sam Collins as well. And we will meet again in a week's time for the Qatar Grand Prix. Goodbye.